Hello everyone. In the depths of a Finnish forest, there's a place known as the quietest spot in the world. People travel thousands of miles just to experience its profound silence. But why? What makes humans seek out silence with such dedication, yet simultaneously work so hard to avoid it in daily life? Our relationship with silence has always been complex. Ancient monks spent years in silent contemplation, believing it was the path to divine truth. Desert hermits sought it in barren landscapes. Japanese Zen masters declared it the sound of enlightenment. Yet today, most of us can't sit in silence for more than a few minutes without reaching for our phones. The story of silence in human history reads like a love affair gone wrong. Early humans knew silence intimately. It was the backdrop of their existence, broken only by nature's sounds and their own activities. In this silence, they developed language, art, and complex thought. The human brain evolved to find meaning in the contrast between sound and silence. But something fascinating happened in religious traditions worldwide. Silence became more than just the absence of noise. It transformed into something sacred. Buddhist monks found it essential for meditation. Christian monasteries built silent cloisters for contemplation. Islamic Sufis sought it in their quest for divine connection. These weren't just arbitrary practices, they understood something fundamental about human consciousness. Modern science is now confirming what these ancient practitioners knew intuitively. When we experience genuine silence, our brains don't just rest, they activate in remarkable ways. The default mode network, responsible for self-reflection and creativity, springs to life. New neural connections form. Stress hormones drop. Blood pressure decreases. It's as if our bodies and minds were designed to require periods of silence for optimal functioning. But here's where our story takes a dark turn. The Industrial Revolution didn't just transform our physical world, it fundamentally changed our sonic environment. Machines fill the air with constant noise. Cities became chambers of endless sound. The electric age brought a perpetual hum to our lives. And then came the digital revolution, filling every moment with notifications, alerts, and the endless chatter of social media. Today, genuine silence has become so rare that it's actually protected by law in some places. There are quiet parks where natural silence is preserved like an endangered species. Some hotels sell silence as a luxury commodity. People pay thousands for silent retreats, desperately seeking what their ancestors had in abundance. The consequences of losing silence are more serious than we might think. Studies show that constant noise exposure doesn't just damage our hearing. It impairs cognitive development, increases stress levels, and can even shorten our lifespan. But the psychological impact might be even more profound. Without silence, we lose our ability to think deeply, to process emotions, to connect with ourselves. Consider how we use silence in art and music. A conductor once said that music is not in the notes, but in the silence between them. Painters talk about the empty space that gives meaning to their compositions. Writers know that what's left unsaid often speaks louder than words. Silence isn't just the absence of something, it's a powerful creative force in its own right. In education, we're discovering that silence plays a crucial role in learning. The pause after a question, the quiet moment of reflection, these silent spaces are where deep understanding takes root. Yet our educational systems often treat silence as wasted time, filling every moment with activity and noise. Perhaps most intriguingly, silence has always been a tool of power. Silent protests have toppled governments. The silent treatment can break relationships. A well-placed pause in conversation can be more powerful than any words. Silence can be both weapon and shield, both strength and weakness. But there's hope in this story. A new movement is emerging, people deliberately seeking out silence in their lives. Silent meditation apps are bestsellers. Companies are creating quiet spaces for employees. Urban planners are designing quiet zones in cities. It's as if we're collectively realizing what we've lost and trying to reclaim it. The future of silence might look very different from its past. Technology, which has been largely responsible for destroying silence, might help us preserve and create it. Noise-canceling technology is becoming more sophisticated. Virtual reality could offer spaces of digital silence. We might learn to create new forms of silence suited to our modern world. Yet the fundamental question remains, can we relearn the art of silence? Can we rediscover what our ancestors knew, that silence is not empty but full of answers? That it's not dead space to be filled, but living space to be explored? The challenge we face isn't just environmental, it's existential. In a world that's louder than ever, we need to understand that silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of something essential to human consciousness, creativity, and well-being. Next time you find yourself in a rare moment of silence, don't rush to fill it. Listen to what it might be telling you. Because in the end, silence might be speaking volumes about what we truly need as human beings. And perhaps in the growing noise of our modern world, rediscovering silence might be the key to finding ourselves again. The irony of our relationship with silence becomes clear when we look at how we spend our money. People pay premium prices for noise-canceling headphones, not to experience silence, but to replace unwanted noise with chosen sounds. We've created a world where artificial silence has become a luxury commodity, while natural silence is increasingly impossible to find. Think about your typical day. From the moment your alarm breaks the night's silence, you're immersed in a sea of sound. The coffee maker's hum, traffic noise, office chatter, digital notifications, background music in stores. We live in a world that seems terrified of silence. Even our moments of quiet are often filled with the subtle buzzing of electronics, the hum of air conditioning, the distant roar of planes overhead. But what happens when we actually experience true silence? For many, it's profoundly uncomfortable. In scientific studies, people often quit silent meditation experiments early, reporting that their thoughts become too loud. It's as if silence acts as a mirror, reflecting back our internal chaos that's usually masked by external noise. This discomfort might explain why we're so quick to fill silence in social situations. We call awkward silences dead air, as if silence itself were a kind of death we need to avoid. Yet psychologists note that our most intimate relationships are often characterized by comfortable silence. Perhaps our ability to share silence with someone is a deeper measure of connection than our ability to maintain conversation. The workplace has become particularly hostile to silence. Open offices create constant background noise. Meetings fill every pause with chatter. Productivity is often measured by visible and audible activity rather than actual results. Yet research shows that our most creative and productive moments often come during or after periods of silence. Consider how silence affects our decision-making. In the split second of silence before responding to a question or making a choice, our brains process information more deeply than during periods of constant input. Silicon Valley executives, despite creating many of the technologies that destroy silence, often practice silent meditation to enhance their decision-making abilities. The natural world offers another perspective on silence. What we call silence in nature is actually filled with subtle sounds, wind and leaves, distant water, animal movements. This kind of living silence differs fundamentally from the dead silence of soundproofed rooms. Our ancestors knew this difference intimately. They could read the sudden silence of birds as a warning sign, understand the quality of silence before a storm, appreciate the different silences of dawn and dusk. As we lose these experiences of natural silence, we also lose something of our evolutionary heritage. Our sensory systems evolved over millions of years to find meaning in the contrast between sound and silence. When we live in constant noise, we're forcing our brains to operate in conditions they weren't designed for. The health implications are becoming impossible to ignore. Beyond the obvious effects of noise pollution on hearing, constant sound exposure affects everything from heart health to cognitive development. Children growing up in noisy environments show delayed language development and decreased ability to focus. Adults in noise-heavy jobs show higher rates of stress-related illness. But perhaps the most profound cost is spiritual. Almost every contemplative tradition teaches that silence is essential for deep insight and self-understanding. Whether through meditation, prayer, or simple reflection, silence has traditionally been seen as the gateway to wisdom. What happens to a civilization that loses this gateway? Looking to the future, we face crucial choices about silence. Will we continue treating it as an enemy to be eliminated or recognize it as a resource to be protected? Will we design our cities, technologies, and social spaces to preserve pockets of silence or surrender completely to the rising tide of noise? Some innovators are already working on solutions. Acoustic architects design buildings that protect natural silence. Urban planners create quiet parks and walking paths. Engineers develop better noise reduction technologies. But these technical solutions address only part of the problem. The deeper challenge is rebuilding our relationship with silence itself. This means learning to appreciate silence not as an empty space to be filled, but as a living presence to be experienced. It means rediscovering the difference between deadening noise and life-giving sound, between oppressive silence and nurturing quiet. As we move deeper into the digital age, the value of silence may only increase. In a world of constant connection and endless noise, the ability to find and maintain silence might become one of the most important skills we can develop. Not just for our mental and physical health, but for our capacity to think deeply, create meaningfully, and connect authentically. Perhaps the greatest paradox of silence is that it has so much to teach us, if only we would listen. In its depths, we might find answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. In its quiet, we might rediscover parts of ourselves we've forgotten. In its peace, we might find the wisdom to navigate our increasingly noisy world. The choice ultimately is ours. Will we continue drowning out silence with ever-increasing noise? Or will we learn again what our ancestors knew, that in silence lies the seed of our deepest understanding, our most profound connections, and our truest selves? The answer might just be found in the silence between these words. Thanks for watching.